but the majority of the people that came through, they had never heard of the hotel necessarily. They were traveling to New York, and they said, "Hey, I can book my stay at a hotel for my trip to New York with an NFT," and they loved it. And they loved it, and they started posting all over Twitter. So my name is Gavi Zeitlin. I'm head of marketing at SolidBlock, and as well as NFTStays, which is a subsidiary of SolidBlock. And very excited to kind of dive into this and let you know about how NFTs are changing the hospitality space.
I'm curious where the idea for you first came from to jump into the hospitality space.
So it's interesting that the first idea actually came from a customer of ours. So NFTStays is kind of a secondary business. Our core business is actually around tokenization, real estate tokenization, being able to move ownership of real estate onto the blockchain. And we had a client that we'd worked with who I don't remember if they came up with the idea for it. I don't remember the original catalyst for it, but they had this idea to be able to use NFTs to allow people to book night stays at their hotels. So they were kind of like our original kind of beta client. And we built the product in less than 45 days from scratch, and we launched it, and it had a lot of success right off the bat with the launch. The hotel is the Nomo Soho. It's a boutique hotel in the Soho neighborhood of New York City, and they launched to traditional media. Right, they had the Robb Report covering it. They had Reuters that did a whole video report on it. But what was interesting was also in the NFT space, because like one of the things that, like we're all involved in like the NFT, blockchain, Web3 space, and we know that everyone gets very excited when a kind of traditional business is implementing anything blockchain related. So all of a sudden I started talking to people, and we had done almost no marketing for this, right, from the beginning. It just kind of went viral. And also I'm talking with people, and they're like, "Oh yeah, like you guys did the NFT thing in the New York hotel. That was awesome." Like, and when people start buying NFTs through the system, saying like, "Man, this is like the best way to book a hotel. I'm never going back to the old way." In the process, that was kind of the original idea, and kind of what launched the whole project for NFTStays.
So one thing I noticed, since you've really, with the NFTs for Nomo Soho, it's 3 packages. How did you decide that was the best way to jump into the space?
Right. So like what we have in terms of our conversation with them is that, we're providing you guys with the package, but let's take NFTs out of the picture for a second. What would be a good hotel deal for what we're offering? Right, and NFTs and blockchain are acting as the technology platform to facilitate it, but like you still have to have a good deal on top of it. So the thinking that they have behind it was that there are different demand dates, right? They'll have the weekends will be higher demand than the middle of the week, so they want to cover a time where people would be able to book during the middle of the week for a cheaper rate, as well as also people who want to book anytime, including the weekend, a bit of a higher rate, and then looking at their own internal data to see that that there's some people who would book many people who would book a 6-night stay. People coming to New York for a week, let's say, they were booking their stay, and that was kind of the average amount of nights they were having in their own hotel. So basically, the decision was driven from data they already had inside the hotel, and again, we're taking we're trying to find clues to show what success is going to look like in the real world, and then you apply it to a new technology, and then it acts as a gas to that already existing fire. And that's generally the way to make the best business decisions, right? Find the existing data and apply it to new technology, keep as many variables the same as possible. The only thing you're adding now is technology, and that's the recipe generally for success.
The blockchain that's attractive to people overall, and it's this kind of transparency that comes with having all the transactions that are logged. And so if you go on to OpenSeas, you can see the sales that are happening. As the company behind that, how do you approach that transparency when you're talking to other hotels and other types of hospitality businesses that might be interested in incorporating more of Web3 technology into their traditional?
Again, in terms of transparency, it's going to depend on every single hotel in any specific area. A hotel in New York City is always going to be more expensive than a hotel in Mobile, Alabama. It's going to be the case just because of the area and the demand. But in terms of like the core benefits outside of the pricing area, there are core benefits that exist regardless of where it is. And I think one of the biggest benefits, both to the user as well as to the hotel, is that the way the system's set up is that we've reduced significantly the chance of people having to book hotels and then cancel their stay, right? Because the traditional way of doing it is if I book a hotel and all of a sudden my trip gets canceled, right? I got to call the hotel up. They've already booked the nights, right? It's a whole hassle. And generally you don't get all the money back, at least right away. It can be a headache. But if someone's buying and thinking, hey, listen, I'm going to buy this now, I might be thinking about going and traveling to this place in 2-3 months, right? They don't have to book their stay right away, because what happens with the NFT platform is that the hotel gets the money up front already. So the hotel's already getting paid, and they can hold that NFT and wait until they would want to book their trip. And if they decide I don't want to book the trip, they can now just go to OpenSea and resell their NFT right on the marketplace. They don't have to get the hotel involved at all. The whole thing is totally seamless, and it's just a much better user experience, both for the actual potential guests, as well as for the hotel, because they don't have to deal with the refunds and everything else, because they've already been paid up front. That's the beauty of this. They've been paid up front, they get paid, and then if anyone needs to deal with booking their or changing the reservation dates, it happens outside of that system.
Interesting cases being developed where this can help with seasonality too in different types of locations. So you mentioned, and we've seen that these are available on OpenSeas, but that's kind of in contrast to what a company like Pink Data is doing, where they're developing kind of their own platform that will have everything contained there. Why did you choose to go with the kind of existing platform for NFTStays?
Well, our goal is to build a platform. Right now, what we want to do is we want to say, what's our fastest way, or I would say not fast way to market, but like, where's the missing technology here? Right, the ability to buy an NFT and sell it, like, we don't need to recreate that to launch. Right, that exists on OpenSea. What we built on the NFTStays platform was the ability to do the redemption process. Right, because one of the things that was really important to us was to make this as seamless as possible for the hotel. And we didn't want to have to do something that was going to have to integrate to their booking system, right? Because if you have to integrate to their booking system, that just adds a layer of friction. It makes things more complicated. And basically what we set up on the NFTStays website is that you go with your NFT after you redeem it, and whether you're the first buyer or you resold to somebody else, when they're ready to book their night stay, they go to the NFTStays website, and then they'll redeem their NFT. The NFT gets marked that now it's been used in response, and in return, they will receive now a coupon code for, let's say, that specific night stay equivalent they can now use on the hotel website. They can go to the hotel website, they'll type in, hey, I want to go, September 18th through the 24th, and which normally costs, say, $1,000. And then when they're done, they put the coupon code in, the price goes to zero, and then they book their stay right there on the platform. And that was the kind of the component that was missing for this entire process. So the goal is eventually to build out a full marketplace with the full redemption process and have be a closed ecosystem. But again, to establish and kind of prove the proof of concept, we need to build that functionality to start.
For, say, another hotel watched this interview or heard about you, they wanted to implement, about what does that runway look like for getting there?
Right. So 45 days was to actually build the platform. They actually started and launched with the actual deal, let's say, for a new hotel. So the time frame is generally about 2 weeks from start to finish, and that 2-week time frame is the work that's done there is the minting the NFTs and the building of the smart contract to manage those NFTs. And so that's done in about 2 weeks. It's pretty standardized, but depending on the deal that somebody has, it will be need to be tested and swapped in. And built accordingly, adapted accordingly to what they're looking to do.
In this first experiment, I guess the first iteration of what you're doing, do you have a sense, based on the wallets that are purchasing these NFTs, how well versed these people are? Is it first-time buyers that have found this hotel and are introduced to NFTs? Is it people who've got a collection of 100 and this is just the 101st NFT? Do you have a sense for that yet?
Yeah, so the sense of the people who are actually buying these are people who are NFT fans, so they're already versed in the technology side of NFTs, right? So you don't have to you don't need to teach them how to redeem an Ethereum versus a Polygon NFT. Right? They know how to manage the walls and the blockchains accordingly. But the majority of the people that came through, they had never heard of the hotel necessarily. They were traveling to New York, and they said, "Hey, I can book my stay at a hotel for my trip to New York with an NFT," and they loved it. And they loved it, and they started posting all over Twitter. But that was where we got the sense. It's like, this is not really people who are just involved with the hotel. The hotel also did make some pushes, but our sense was that a lot of this was from the PR efforts that were done, and the reach into the NFT community, and the PR within that community that really what drove those sales.
So there's a real sense that, at least from the early returns, that a hotel or a hospitality business can be using NFTs to find a new market for their service or product.
Yeah, 100%, and that's how we approach this. We approach this, kind of the example and story that I would give was, imagine 20 years ago, whenever the time frame was, when hotels were first starting to offer bookings on the internet, right? Like, it's some new thing, and keep in mind, like the late 90s, people were still saying the internet was not going to be used for business, right? So just like people will say today, oh, NFTs and blockchain will never be used for business, it was the same thing back then. And imagine the first hotels that were able to offer this, and the demand and basically they were able to tap into that demand for online booking. So it's the same way now. It's like you have the demand of people who are in the NFT space who know how to use NFTs. That was also, I think, another point. It's that as like this is going to happen, this kind of with the general evolution in the blockchain space will be ease of use for, let's say, less technical savvy folks. We're definitely in the innovator segment of the market right now, but that's going to change as time goes along. And the more seamless and easier you can make this, again, this is part of also why we want to eventually make a closed system to reduce like the technical knowledge required. Then I think that's really going to grow over time. And right now, the hotels that do launch this are able to tap into those people who are versed in the technology and do know how to use it and are really excited about all the new use cases that are happening.
Too much focus at this point on either your team's end or the hotel's end on sort of broader education, or is it really like, let's tap into those innovators, the people who are already knowledgeable about it, and they will kind of do the work of kind of marketing and word of mouth, talking about the product?
I would answer that in two phases. I mean, the first phase was definitely like, there's not the opportunity, which we tapped into now. Tap into that market now. I think in terms of educating people about NFTs, like Saddlebox is a lot of education about not just the core, our core business around tokenization, but also just in general about the NFTs, about future metaverse, things that are happening out there. So the answer is yes. Yes, that's what we're doing.
So for NFTStays, how do you see the next 6 months, a year playing out? Are your goals to onboard just more hotels? Is it broadly travel, hospitality? What's the strategy for?
Yeah,
so you can reveal, obviously.
Yeah, so I mean, our focus is still hotels. We're actually in the process of onboarding 3 or 4 more right now. So they'll probably be all live in the next couple of weeks. But like our goal is to continue, I think, to be able to continue fleshing out this proof of concept, making not just the technology side, but also a case study we can give to the next hotel that comes up. Because I think the hurdle for a hotel is like, they still need to market this. There still needs to be a marketing thing. Like there is a certain sense of virality that will happen just because the space is new. But I think also with the general kind of downturn in the crypto market, there isn't as much talk about these things. When that rebounds, I think for sure we're going to have that. And you definitely still have the diehards in the NFT space who will still use it because they understand the value. Like here you have an NFT that's not being driven by the value of it's not being driven by speculation. It's being driven by a real world business event, right? And that's what's giving this NFT value. So in terms of, I guess, again, the goals for the next 6 months would be to continue building that out and also continue building out the platform to be able to make this even more cohesive and robust.
What I found, I guess, in having these conversations and talking to a few different use cases, whether it is raising funds to free elephants in Thailand or book stays in New York, it's seeing this shift from purely kind of speculation art that costs millions of dollars and then it doesn't cost anything to real life use cases, utility, it's practical.
Right.
So how would you talk to, in many cases, hospitality businesses can be more conservative, or they're their tried and true techniques that they can stick with. Are those businesses that you think will come around to this, or are you focused more on businesses that are a bit more proactive, a bit more innovative in their approach to marketing?
Right. So right now, our audience is definitely the ones that are more innovative in their marketing, because generally, like with businesses, like they have to understand the value, right? We don't view as our role. We have to go convince you of the value of this. Our goal is to build products, get results, and let the results speak for themselves. And then it's like, hey, if you want this result, we're happy to help you out and answer any questions you have. But it's not my job to go convince you this next thing. If you go back to, again, internet's a great example. There were articles that were coming out in the late 90s saying the internet is a fad, right? The internet's going to explode. And in a certain sense, they were right. Well, you had the .com bubble explosion, but the difference between in the .com era versus now as well. So the .com also, eventually people got so excited about anything internet related that people just started focusing on technology and not on the core business, right? We've probably all heard of a company called Amazon.com, right? There was probably, right? Yeah. Right. At the time, in the late 90s, it was a small online bookshop. Right? That's what it was. And there was another company called Pets.com, which was a massive VC-backed e-commerce company for pets, and they're gone today. And they're gone because Amazon. This is a good business lesson, but Jeff Bezos wants to ask, Jeff, what do you see changing in the next 10 years that you're adapting to? And his response was, I don't know what's going to change in the next 10 years, but I'm pretty sure I know what's not going to change. I know that people are not, most likely are not going to come to me and say, Jeff, I love Amazon, but I really wish that your prices were higher, your quality was less, your selection was less, and your shipping was slower. Right? So that's a core business principle driving the decisions, whereas Pets.com was, we're a pet store online. You can buy the same products for more money than the pet store up the street, and we'll give it to you, and we'll ship it to you in 2 weeks.
But they had a mascot.
Exactly. So this is kind of, I think, where we are a bit in the blockchain space, when people get so excited about anything you throw blockchain or NFTs or metaverse around. It's like it will be a bubble unless you have a core business use case. And that's going to be the case. It's not technology is the problem. It's the hype people have around it, or excitement around people have around technology without understanding really what it is, and also forgetting that even the technology is not a business. So for a traveler or tourist participating in this blockchain, what would you say is sort of the best case scenario for them? How does this make travel easier? It definitely makes traveling easier, because let's say the main benefit off the bat is it gives them flexibility to change travel plans in ways that they don't necessarily have in kind of the traditional system. And also they get ownership of it, So one of the things that happens after you redeem that NFT for the coupon, you now have the keepsake of the trip that you're going to go on as an NFT, right? So these are kind of like the core uses cases for them is the extra options that you would have with that NFT, as well as also the hotels that we're working with is you're packaging it not just with the NFTStays, but also other benefits that that happened or that the hotel may happen to have. For hotels that have heard this and are interested in you, what's the best way to get in touch and to get implementing on this? Yeah, sure. So they can go to NFTStays.com, and there they can fill out a form. We'll ask you a few questions about your hotel, and then we'll set up a time to speak to us to learn more. Awesome. Anything that we didn't touch on that you'd like to bring up, whether about NFTs, blockchain, hospitality? NFTs and blockchain are very, very exciting right now in terms of where they're going to be going in the future. It's so important to remember that every use case, right, needs to have a real business use case. In the real world, it has to be solving a problem, it has to fill a need, and those are the companies that are going to be around for a long time, as opposed to the ones that will, go boom and bust depending on, the current market sentiment in the marketplace.